Hey, do you ever feel really sad? Do you ever feel that grief, that numbing, consuming grief? A friend of mine posted a picture on Facebook yesterday, and it was the frame of a human being. So imagine the metal frame of a human being, and it was full of pebbles, stones. And the art was intended to represent grief. And it really affected me when I looked at it. And I thought about what grief feels like. Do you ever think about what grief really is and what it feels like? Monday just gone, I felt really sad. I felt so sad. There was a trigger, and the trigger really was, it was expected. I thought this event might happen. But when it did happen, I felt so much grief. And I cried and I cried and I cried. I cried a good deal of 2 days. And today I haven't cried, but I've got massive lines under my eyes from crying so much. And I try to be upbeat in my videos and my podcasts, and I like to talk about achievement, success, happiness, meditation, relaxation. I like to look at hope, and I like to look at ways that we can do it. And I like to be can do. So when I had this news, my brain kind of searched for ways to be okay about it, and there weren't any ways. It's one of those pieces of news that's just devastating. Just devastating. And it's like a stone that you turn over, and each way you look at the stone, it's just devastating. You can't hold it up to the light and have a better view. It's just sad. And the weekend I had wasn't a great weekend. There's always happiness in every single day, but there were dynamics with the children. The formatting with the book is taking much longer than I expected. And without drawing you into a conversation about formatting, it's a learning experience for me. And each time I find something wrong with the formatting, I need to send it to America. They adjust it. It comes back. I review it. I check it. I send it over. And I've found about 80 mistakes, little tiny mistakes that I'm gradually repairing. And so the anticipation of getting the book out and wanting that release date, the dynamics with the children, between the different children. Then Saturday night, my daughter came into my room at 1 a.m, as she seems to do at times. And although we talk about it again and again, and I try different ways to explain, I really need my sleep. It needs to be a very important reason. Somehow that issue hasn't been resolved. So when I had the news which brought sadness, we'll call it, the news which brought sadness, I was already tired, concerned, feeling a lack of confidence, and then I had the news. And I was at basketball, and I needed to present a stiff upper lip. I walked out of basketball. I thought, I'm going to breathe in the air. I'll breathe in some air. I'll meditate. I breathed in the air and I meditated and I said, I'm okay. I can do this. I'm okay. And I walked up and down the car park, and then tears streamed down my face. And I tried to stop them and I couldn't. And I cried and cried and cried. And then I put my glasses on so I could say goodbye to the person who was teaching my boys basketball. Thank you very much for the basketball. How are the boys? Good, he says. Good, I say. And we leave. I take off my glasses, I get in the car, and the tears stream down. I take the boys home. I work out something they can eat, set the kids up, doing different things, and the tears stream down. So after 2 days of tears, so many tears, and so many layers of acknowledgement of what occurred, I think I'm going to read about how to fix this. And I look online on how to manage sadness. And I read about exercise. When you're sad, exercise. When you're sad, take a breath. When you're sad, look on the bright side. When you're sad, be grateful. When you're sad, write a plan. These are things I really agree with, normally. But what I don't agree with is giving sadness a bad name. Disclaimer: if you're sad, if you feel depression, go and see someone. I want you to see someone and receive help. But what if it isn't clinical depression? What if it isn't a feeling, a sensation that requires professional support? What if it is normal daily occurrences which bring sadness? Sadness has such a bad name in some ways, in that immediately people say, cheer up, you'll be okay, move on. What if that isn't the aim of sadness? What if sadness is there to raise us to greater heights? I don't feel like exercise at the moment. I don't really feel like smiling, and I'm a big smiler. I don't feel like meditating. I am meditating. I haven't been to the gym in 3 days. And I've cried a heck of a lot of tears. Big tears. And then I looked online, and I'm not really keen on the answers that I found for me today. And then I thought about you. What do you think about sadness? What if sadness is an evolutionary behaviour which aids our growth? What if sadness is about enlightenment? What if sadness is about us reaching our higher self? What if sadness is there to be embraced? Not always, I get it. If you're clinically depressed, go and see someone, because life is miraculous, even with day-to-day sadness. We all experience sadness day to day. Death, illness, not gaining the career path that we wanted to, having a relationship fall apart, all brings sadness, strong sadness. There's a saying or a story in Australia that Aborigines do burnings, so they burn areas of the bush in order that the undergrowth can come up, and in order to provide safety so there's less likelihood of a big fire coming through. What if sadness is God's or the universe's way of arming us with resilience? What if sadness is a way of preparing us, helping us realize that nothing is going to last and everything is transient? What if sadness is there to help us find positive in the negative, to help us reflect? What if sadness has an upside which involves us actually sitting in the sadness rather than cheer up, don't be sad, move on? What about we actually sit in the sadness? I'm going to try it now. So I'm going to inhale, exhale through my nose. Lengthen my spine. I'm going to think about my sadness. I think that there is a case for sitting in the sadness, acknowledging the sadness, experiencing the sadness, and then gaining some perspective to look down upon it. Notice the words here, gaining perspective, not languishing or lying or rolling around in the sadness. Functional sadness. That sadness where I still feed the children, still laugh with the children, still drive them to school, still work on my book, but have a heavy heart knowing that I need to adjust to a change which is final and very unlikely to result in any other ending other than bringing me sadness. You have to laugh. What if the sadness is about self-realization? What if the sadness is about me going, oh, that's terrible. This is really terrible. This is really painful. When I feel sad right now, my heart hurts and my whole body feels heavy. I'm going to notice what that feels like. I'm going to notice what it feels like to have a heavy heart. I'm going to notice what it feels like to realize the enormity of this loss. And I'm going to realize the loss. I'm going to contemplate and sit with the loss. In some of the internet sources I read today, it said, distract yourself away from the sadness. I can see that that has a role to play, distraction. But I wonder whether distraction delays us the grief, and the grief needs to be felt. And again, I'm not saying languish in the grief, roll around in it. Hold it up and say, I'm really sad because I've lost this precious thing, and I don't think anything's going to change this situation, so it may be forever or the length of my life. This was and is very precious to me. It's likely to be gone. And I know that one day I'll be okay. So I'm going to allow the sadness to wash over me. When the sadness washes over me, I'm going to use the waters of self-reflection, the waters of perspective, the waters of grief, the tears of loss. I refuse the tsunami of bitterness. I refuse the tsunami of resentment. I refuse the tsunami of what ifs. I choose the tears of letting go. Now, letting go takes time. And during that time, I may at different stages feel sadness, and that's okay. But I'm going to allow the tears of my sadness to grow into a beautiful tree rather than to fester into a toxic boil. Beautiful tree. With time, slowly, I'm going to regrow like the Aboriginal burning. The undergrowth, the new fronds, the new grasses, the branches will grow up, and I'll grow as a person. I may not do it today, might not be tomorrow, and every so often I'll cry. But I'll use those tears to develop as a person, to see the light, to smile. I'll grow upward instead of downward into resentment. If you feel sadness, don't let anyone tell you how to process it. You decide how to process it. I encourage you to look away from languishing. Try and stay functional. I encourage you, if you're really sad, to seek help. And I encourage you each day when you feel sadness to lengthen the spine, breathe and say, I'm sad and that's okay. I love my life, and part of my life at times is sadness. And when I experience those times in my life of sadness, I will allow them, like I am the pebble of life, to wash over me. And gradually, in my own time, I will let go. I'll embrace the opportunity and the possibility of grief when I'm ready. When I'm ready. I will not turn my head back to resentment and bitterness. I'll turn my head forward to engagement, hope, and happiness in my time. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode today. I'm very grateful. I hope that you're okay. Forgive my eyes. Please subscribe. Please be well. Keep your journal. Meditate daily. Reflect upon yourself with perspective.